Welcome into Seattle Seahawks today. I am Tom Downey. We're going to break down some draft targets, but first, let's get to 25K subscribers here on our Seahawks channel. We did it for Marshawn Lynch. Now we're going to do it for Richard Sherman. If you haven't already and you want free Seahawks videos every single day, hit that big red button and subscribe. As promised, we also have some subscriber shout-outs. The first 10 people who did what we asked are getting a shout-out. So if I mispronounce your name, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm trying my best here. Rick Cossey, Jerome Blossom, Tyron, however you pronounce it there, Jacob Anderson, Saigen or Saigen, I like the profile pic, by the way. Rob Tamayo, Benjamin G17, Wesley Heathscott, Marcelo Imperial, and a Random God all did our little subscriber shout-out challenge. You were the first 10 to do it. So thank you all so much as we get ready for today's video, NFL draft targets for the Seattle Seahawks. Welcome into Seattle Seahawks today. I am Tom Downey. We are from my house in Dallas because this is a state and city that cannot handle cold weather or rain and snow and all kinds of stuff. So I literally wasn't able to drive to the office. So my apologies if things are a little bit choppy, but we still wanted to do a video for you guys here. Today's video is all about draft targets for Seattle. Now, I'm still focused in, for the most part, on what I consider to be their top needs. Now, Seattle's in a tricky spot this year because they don't have that much in terms of draft capital. A second-round pick, number 41 overall, a third-round pick, number 74 overall, and then picks we don't know the order of quite yet because the pick process has not yet been formalized. 2 fourth-rounders, one of their own, one from the New York Jets, part of the Jamal Adams trade way back when, a 5th-round pick, and a 7th-round pick as well. So Seattle doesn't have a lot in terms of being able to maximize their draft capital, and that means they're going to have to get these picks correct. Each pick counts a lot if you don't have a first-rounder, and that early second-round pick is going to be the Seahawks' best path to getting an impact young player via, of course, the draft this year. I doubt they trade up. Trading down, hell, that could be a more plausible outcome in the end for Seattle. We'll just have to wait and see on that front. So before I get to my list, and this list will change throughout the pre-draft process and will ebb and flow based on what the teams end up doing in terms of their needs, I want you to name a player who you want the Seattle Seahawks to draft. Keep it somewhat realistic. Yes, Derek Stingley would be awesome. Kayvon Thibodeau would be awesome. Evan Neal, you're not getting that player. But let me know in the comments. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get the ad break here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Now, right now, I think the Seahawks' biggest need is at the cornerback position. I think they have to find a way to either retain DJ Reed and Sidney Jones and allow Trey Brown to grow and develop. Otherwise, maybe it's finally time to do something Seattle doesn't often do, which is invest a premium pick at the cornerback position. The good news, I think there will be some good players on the board in early round 2 for them. First up on my list is Trent McDuffie, a guy I'm sure many of you Seahawks fans know oh so well because, of course, he plays for the Washington Huskies. McDuffie does not have the greatest size in the world, but he was always very productive for the Huskies and didn't get beat very often. That carries plenty of value for a team like Seattle. And in recent years, they've gotten away from their typical cover 3 style corner of tall and long and hopefully with some good speed. And they've invested in some smaller corners, TJ Reed, Trey Brown. That could work for Seattle. Now, Kaiir Elam fits a little bit more. I think we don't have his arm length quite yet, but fits more of the typical mold for Seattle in previous years. Out of Florida, look, I would love to get an Ahmad Sauce Gardner. I would love to get Andrew Booth, Derek Stingley. I don't think those guys are there, so instead I'm focused more on players like Elam, who, look, his listed size is 6'2", 196. Now, is he closer to 6'1"? Probably. That's how program weight often ends up working, but that's a good player for Seattle to keep their eye on. Finally, at corner, there's Kyler Gordon. Yes, Trent McDuffie's teammate, and I would not be surprised, which might surprise you, if there are some people around the NFL, whether it's media scouts or the real ones, that actually think Gordon is a better player than McDuffie. McDuffie's had most of the hype. but Gordon can play too. He's got some pretty good size and is a fantastic athlete as well. In fact, I would argue Gordon's probably the best athlete of these three. So I want you to pick a corner for me. Type M for Trent McDuffie, type E for Kaiir Elam, or you guys can type in G for Kyler Gordon. M, E, or G, it spells Meg, which is not what I planned, but that's where we're at. So head down to the comment section and let me know who you want. Of those three corners, somebody else you can drop a name in as well, but those are the three I focused on for this video. I also want to spend some time on the offensive tackle position. Left tackle, right tackle are potential areas of need. First up on my list, Bernard Raymond out of Central Michigan. Began his career as a tight end and then moved to the offensive tackle spot. Now, he needs to add some mass to his frame. I think Trevor Penning is a better prospect out of Northern Iowa. I don't think Penning falls. Raymond's falling to the 40s, maybe a bit of a stretch, but weird things happen in the NFL draft. He'd be a pretty damn good pick if Seattle could land him. Next up is Nicholas Petit-Frere, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Now, the lasting taste for many, unfortunately, was him getting worked by Michigan in the Ohio State-Michigan game. He did not attend any of the postseason bowl games, like in terms of the Senior Bowl, etc., which means he actually might be there for Seattle. I would wonder if he's been better on the right side than the left side, but he's played both. That carries value for NFL teams. And then we got producer Jeremy's boy, Daniel Falele, 6'8" and change, checked in at the Senior Bowl, which is going on right now, at 387 pounds. That is an absolutely massive human being. Now, unfortunately for Falele, he does still need to develop some traits in terms of being a more well-rounded technician. He's got the size, has not exactly been consistent yet in terms of his technique. And this is probably a bit more of a developmental pick than what you might be hoping for in round two, but he could be a great right tackle long-term for you. Maybe the more of a Trent McBride, for example. Now, if you haven't already, go take advantage. Subscribe right now to us here at Seattle Seahawks Today. We've got videos coming out pretty much every single day on the NFL draft, free agency, trade rumors. Not always about Russell Wilson, who, of course, I don't want to trade. But if you want to stay in know what's going on around Seattle, maybe they'll hire a defensive coordinator at some point. Hit that big red button and subscribe. Next up is, what if Quandre Diggs isn't back in Seattle? And what if they don't view Marquise Blair anymore as a real option for them at the safety position? If that is the case, I think there are some intriguing names to keep an eye out for at the safety spot. First up is Daxton Hill, who, kind of like Marquise Blair and Ugo Amadi, also has a lot of nickel corner value, which actually might make him a logical fit in Seattle. Hill played a lot of nickel for Michigan, but he's got the top-end speed I think you desperately want in a free safety. I think he can return to what he played before in that single-high safety role, which maybe that's the route Seattle pursues once they eventually hire a new DC. Lewis Cine is next up here out of Georgia, another quality prospect. I think Hill is more likely to go in round one than Cine is, which might make Cine a bit more logical of a draft target for Seattle, but he's a damn good prospect. And I'm very intrigued by Jaquan Brisker. I don't know if he can truly be your every down deep safety, but if you're going to run more two safety deep looks, that split field coverage, I think he's a good fit. I know Daxton Hill and Cine are also great fits in that split safety role. You're going to allow him to be in the box some. Maybe you use multiple safeties and you use Brisker, Adams, and Quandre Diggs and get really creative with it, which, again, I'm getting outside the box there, but that could be a fit as well. So I think these are three of the top day two safety prospects. Illinois' got Kirby Joseph, and Baylor's got Jalen Petrie, who I think are also decent names to keep an eye out for. Now, when it comes to the draft, what position do you think Seattle has to address? I'm going offensive line. I think for round two in particular, tackle makes the most sense. You don't need a guard, I don't think, and I don't think there's a good center. I'd love Tyler Linderbaum. That's not going to happen, though. So let me know in the comments what position you think Seattle has to address. Today's show is presented by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. You can bet on the NFL playoffs. You can bet on college basketball, bet on the NBA, bet on the Super Bowl, the NFL draft, you name it. And when you use promo code Seahawks125 at chatsports.com/bet, you will get a 125% deposit bonus. $100 in, boom, extra 125 for you to bet with. I assume none of us want the Rams to win. My suspicion there, well, the Bengals want to put your money where your fandom is, or at least your rooting interest is. They're a 4.5-point dog. That's the route I'm going for this game. So fade me or follow me at chatsports.com/bet Seahawks125. Let's talk tight ends now with Gerald Everett and Will Dissly, both set to be free agents this year for the Seahawks. Two names that I think make a lot of sense in round two, and I'll verbally mention some others as well. First up is Trey McBride out of Colorado State. Not often do you find tight ends who put up big production at the college level. That is what McBride did. There's also Jalen Wydermyer out of Texas A&M. Didn't quite have the breakout year like so many hopes, but he would be a solid pick in round two if Seattle's not sold on Kobe Parkinson being the guy. McBride's numbers for CSU were nutty. 90 catches, over 1,000 yards at tight end. Only one touchdown somehow, which barely makes any sense whatsoever. Wydermyer, meanwhile, only 40 catches, but is still a good prospect in his own right. Other tight ends like Cade Otton, who I think some of you guys might like him in the local flair. Those are guys that I like. I just don't think they're great round two options. Round three, though, you can take a Jeremy Ruckert potentially out of Ohio State as well. Some other players I want to mention here, a bit of a rapid-fire style. I think DeMarvin Leal would be a fantastic pick for A&M. I don't think interior D-line is a top three need for now, but it could be in the near future, depending on how Seattle dresses in free agency. Leal is not the sum of his traits yet. He shows flashes. He's not consistent. Neither was Chris Jones or Jeffrey Simmons coming out. Maybe Leal could have that type of growth in the NFL. Another name out of the Big 12, well, this one in the Big 12, I should say, Perrion Winfrey out of Oklahoma. So SEC D lineman, now Big 12 D lineman. Winfrey, massive arm length, 35, 36, remember which one it is, inch arms, off the charts huge, having a good Senior Bowl. 40s is maybe a bit of a reach for him, but not by much. So I wouldn't hate it if I were Seattle. Christian Harris next up here. Nakobe Dean, Devin Lloyd are great. If they move on from Bobby Wagner, I think it's a mistake. But Harris is a name to keep an eye out for day two. I'll also mention this kid, Chad Muma. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Out of Wyoming, big-time player as well. I cannot, in good conscience, given my previous takes on Rashad Penny, suggest Seattle spend their first pick in round two on a running back. If they are, Walker, Isaiah Spiller, etc. If you want to wait until round four, I think would be a great idea for Seattle. Take a pay back there. Rashad White is a big play threat. Had averaged 10 yards per carry back in 2020. That got cut to 5.5 this year. Still really good. And an under-the-radar name, Dameon Pierce out of Florida. Wasn't utilized all that much, which did actually kind of bother me because I thought he was a good football player for the Gators. But that also keeps his workload low. And I think adds extra value to him as it relates to being a maybe more day three prospect. Now, when it comes to the NFL draft for a team with no first-round pick, there are so many names we could have discussed. So I want you guys to drop a name for me in the comment section. I could spend a 50-minute show breaking down all the different possible options. You guys aren't going to watch that whole thing, so we'll keep it short and sweeter to an extent. So let me know in the comments who I left off my draft targets list.